Hello, Internet. I'm Matt.
And I'm Monster Punter.
And this is the Parallax Scrolling Podcast, where we give you our perspective on video games and the news that affects them. What a week. And not in like, I don't know how to explain it fully, but like, this week was such a roller coaster. Had some really cool moments, but can we get the one big one out of the way?
What's that?
It was hot.
Yes.
It got real hot.
Yes. Yes.
And it's interesting because the game, one of the games that like I played this week is I played Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Ah.
And of course, knowing me, I had to go through the fire temple on the hottest day of the year.
Don't worry.
It did not help me. It was rough.
Now you have to wait for it to be raining to play the water temple.
Yeah, no.
And you have to wait for a tornado to play the wind temple.
I'm already almost done with the wind temple, actually.
Well, then you're doing it wrong.
I know. That's the point. But I'm having fun. Game's actually, I'm loving that game. That game is so much fun. Yeah, I'm getting a real big kick out of it. I especially like the ability to, like, stick weapons on other weapons. And, like, every once in a while, I'll have to fight, like, undead bokoblins. And they'll drop their arms. So then I'll pick their arm up, and it's still waving and waggling, even though it's all loose. And then I'll attach, like, another weapon to it. And so, like, the hand is, like, holding the weapon, and it's just still waving. And I'm like, this is kind of funny.
Jeez. It's a little morbid for Nintendo.
Dude, this game is dark. Like, it doesn't feel like it at some points. But for the beginning is dark. Some of the enemies are dark. And there's an event. I don't know if this is in Tears of the Kingdom. I'll have to, or Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry. I'll have to go back and check that. But there's an event where there's a random blood moon, and like the sky turns red, and like the evil gloom they call it. It starts like a miasma starts coming out of the ground, and then there's a cutscene, and it's of like a specter of Zelda, and she starts speaking poetic about the blood moon and how the slain creatures will like return to flesh, and you just see all the monsters start to come back to life. Literally, it respawns every monster that you've killed, and it does it in such a way that I'm like, this is dark. This is pretty like spooky, and I'm like, it does it well. It does it really well. So I'm actually enjoying that game. So, what about you? Anything I know you've been really busy with work.
Yes, work has been very, very busy.
Okay, but did you get to play anything at all?
I played some more Trails. I guess what I'll say about that is you actually go back to, with the Trails of Cold Steel people, you go back to an area that was from Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. You actually visit that city again, and stuff happens in there. It's really, really interesting. Enjoying it so far.
Cool.
The story's finally picking up some, so it's getting better.
Awesome.
I played Monster Hunter again. I played Broforce. More Broforce.
We love that game.
Dude, 4-player Broforce, you can't tell what the heck's going on, man.
Awesome.
It's ridiculous.
Awesome.
I'm like, am I dead? I can't tell. Am I dead? I think I'm dead. Okay, I'm dead. That's what I found myself saying quite a bit. And then I played Rise, Son of Rome, a 10-year-old game just earlier today for like an hour. Because it's free on Game Pass. I was like, I've always heard this one's kind of interesting. So
yeah, I've heard good things about that one.
Gave it a try, and it holds up pretty well. I mean, it is like a lot of the same action and things like that again. And I could understand why people wouldn't like it. But I think if it being on Game Pass, and I hear it's only like a 6-hour game, it looks like it could be a pretty good 6 hours.
Cool. I'll have to check it out.
And so, yeah, definitely check it out if you have an Xbox and especially have Game Pass, or you can find it online super cheap nowadays if you want to play it that way. It still holds up really good. A launch game for the Xbox One. It definitely does. You could tell it's one of the earlier Xbox One games, but it holds up really well.
The fact that it's 3 systems back now? Or is it 2?
No, just the last one.
I thought there was the
Xbox One generation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was thinking like 1 and then 1X was like a completely different step.
No.
Okay. I don't know. I know my brain was just doing that, but it has been. You said something that was very interesting, and I'm going to use it because it's a great segue.
Okay.
And you were talking about playing trails,
Yes.
and you had to go back to some areas you've already been to before.
Gosh, yeah.
I'm going to go back to my community comment or question, and I'm actually very happy. We have 2 comments I get to go through today.
Okay.
So please, like these are guys who I normally see on here. I would love to see more, and I know there's more of you out there. So if you're listening and you got some comments, put them in the comments down below. We want to hear from you. But my question was about backtracking in video games. How do you feel about backtracking? So I'm going to start off with Tom. And boy, did Tom have stuff to say, and I love it. I love it. So here we go. Backtracking. I love it in Metroidvanias. God of War, traditional Zelda-style games, and survival horror games. Resident Evil Mansion, City or Island. I also like it in RPGs where it serves as a home base or adds to the world building like in Legend of Heroes Trails RPGs. Oh, hey, you said that. Dragon Quest Builders and the Yakuza series. Heck, I even love it in Mario 64 for the castle or Mario Galaxy for the spaceship. However, I hate it in roguelikes because I don't want to keep replaying the same sequence with no new story or world building elements. I guess I just don't like most roguelike games because I see them as lazy design and very repetitive with limited content that would be more if it were an action-adventure or Metroid game instead. Very insightful. I thought that was a really good comment. So thank you, Tom. Also, that one dude responded with, backtracking is kind of a mixed bag for me. It depends on how it's used. In Metroidvania games, backtracking is the norm, but in those games you usually are rewarded with new power-ups and new pathways that you couldn't reach on your first visit, so that's cool. Another example of backtracking I enjoy is when a previous area has changed it, makes backtracking not too tedious. A good example of this comes from Hollow Knight, when Forgotten Crossroads changes later in the game and makes it a harder area. But if a game has me backtracking without any new abilities or changes in the area, I find it kind of lame in my opinion. I absolutely agree with both of you. I think this is some fantastic insight. But yes, backtracking is cool, a cool concept, especially like with Hollow Knight. That's an excellent example. Going through the Forgotten Crossroads, you're like, oh, this is kind of nice. It's refreshing. But you are going to go through the Forgotten Crossroads a bunch. And then there's just that one moment in the game where everything flips and all of a sudden it's like one of the hardest areas in the game. And you're like, this is unexpected. Very cool idea. But what's your opinion?
My opinion?
Yeah, what's your opinion?
Why don't we address their opinions as part of our opinions? So what do you think of Tom?
I think he's, like I said, I think they're both spot on. I think it's kind of a mixed bag. Like you have some great times where backtracking works. Metroidvanias is kind of an obvious answer, I feel. Certain RPGs can do it really well, but I've had plenty of experiences where I'm like, why am I back here? There's literally no reason for me to come back here. There's nothing worth coming back to. And I've had that not just in I've had that in some action games. I've had that in some 3D platformers. Like if you having the home base style like Mario 64, because I'm going to use Tom's example there. Yeah, because you're really not adventuring away from the castle in Mario 64, because the paintings just take you to another universe, sort of, and then you go right back to the castle. You've always been in the castle. You've never really left, so it's not that different. But I don't know. It's a cool concept when done right.
Well, Tom doesn't seem to like roguelikes, but one of your favorite games from a couple of years ago is in fact a roguelike. So
absolutely.
What do you think of that opinion?
I think he's entitled to his opinion.
Of course, but I'm just saying, do you agree with that?
Well, here's the thing. If the concept of a roguelike is not so much the ability to play through the same area again and again and again, it's what makes it roguelikes special is that it's how you address the same areas over and over again. Hades is an excellent example. Hades is fantastic. Love Hades. But you have, 8 different weapon styles? I think it's 8. 7 or 8.
6.
Is it 6?
Yeah.
It's up there. just because you run through the same area, the gameplay will be different every time. So being able to change out your weapons is just another new way to play the game. Changing up the game mechanics is refreshing. But yes, if it was like, okay, here's the best example. Super Mario Brothers, the original, for the NES. You played through all 8 levels. You beat Bowser. Cool. Then they put you back at 1-1.
Yeah, that's how old school games kind of work.
Right. 1-1's boring at that point, though, isn't it? You know? It isn't until, like, I think it's like a few levels in where they actually start to change up the mechanic. Like, it becomes, like, a harder difficulty. But why am I playing 1-1 again? This is just a waste of my time. So, that's how I kind of see it. How do you see it?
Well, I come at it from a few different... I guess from a couple different angles you could look at it. One, you know, they mentioned you get power-ups and other things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I get that, the backtracking for that. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I understand it. I guess my opinion just in general is backtracking kind of sucks. I'm not the biggest fan of it. But
that's valid.
It also depends on what you're doing to a certain degree.
Right.
Now, I also want to point out that there's achievement hunters out there that, you know, do their achievement hunting and will play the game several times to get all the different, like, endings or whatever the case may be.
Right.
You know, one of my favorite games is Guardian Heroes, and yeah, I've played the first several levels of that over and over and over again. But there's different endings, and sometimes the game is just so good mechanically that how much does that really even matter?
Right, but that's not exactly backtracking. Backtracking requires you to be in the same run of the game.
Sure.
So that's why I'm kind of like, how do you feel about that?
But I mean, like, let's take something like, I hate to use this as like a punching bag, but how about Assassin's Creed? When the first one came out and you were trying to collect all the feathers, if you wanted to collect all the feathers, you could spend a ton of time looking for that.
And it would require a ton of backtracking. Yeah, I think with collectathon games, that's a problem.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of, you know, collect all those kind of things. So
yeah, it gets kind of old. And I know, like, that's probably like one of the big problems I've heard about the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is that, like, the Korok seeds, trying to find all the Korok seeds is like the biggest beef people have. You don't have to, though.
You don't have.
But if you want 100% it, you do, and I get that, and I can see that being a problem.
Yeah, but so that's my personal opinion. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Will do it if needed.
Okay.
Won't do it for stupid reasons. How about that?
That works. Okay. Next community question. I've still been playing Diablo 4, right? So this question is personal right now. How do you guys feel about your mini-maps in video games? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Are they necessary? Are they unnecessary? How do you feel about mini-maps? Let us know in the comments down below. And then let us know in the comments about anything we talk about today. Video games, news stories, whatever. We want to know. So, speaking of news stories, we have some goodbyes we have to say. We have some goodbyes. First one, probably the most obvious one, we have to say goodbye to Mario and his voice.
Yep.
Charles Martinet is being retired. I don't know if it's being retired or is retiring, but Nintendo is no longer going to have Charles Martinet voice acting Mario anymore. And he's going to be promoted to the Mario Ambassador, and he's going to get to travel the world and represent Mario and Nintendo various places.
Promoted, quote unquote.
Yeah, was it you said earlier? It's pretty much a step away from being promoted to customer.
Yeah. Promoted to customer.
Honestly, like I've actually watched some videos of people reacting to this news, and for some people it's like a punch in the gut, and I'm like, I guess because I've done it enough times, you know, like Walt Disney doesn't voice Mickey Mouse anymore. Mel Blanc doesn't voice Bugs Bunny anymore. Jim Henson is not the voice of Kermit. Stuff from my childhood, I've gone through this many, many times before, so it's not like it's heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, it's more of an eventuality. The man is getting old. We all are.
For long-lived characters, and people had to have a tendency to retire or die.
Yes, and or both. But he's been the voice of Mario since '64. And that's where most of the people who've been reacting, that's what they started on video games with, is Super Mario 64. So they've always had the voice of Mario. And guess what? When I was a kid, Mario was a mute.
Yeah.
They were all mute.
Yeah.
So not congratulations on making it this long and doing it this far, Charles. But look forward to your future endeavors and your Mario adventures.
First world problems. I remember a time when a video game actually had speech. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, you took a moment. You're like, wait a minute. Did he just talk to me?
Yes.
Okay. Here's a great question. When was the first time you heard a voice in a video game?
Oh dear Lord.
I know exactly mine, and I know.
I don't know, but I mean, the one that I doubt this is the first one, but the one that sticks in my head is Gauntlet. Green Archer is about to die.
Yep.
And maybe I remember that more for the fact that I just got so sick of the darn it. It's like, shut up. I don't want to hear it. I've been almost dead for the last 15 minutes. Can you get the stupid beep to go away?
Yeah. But then Gauntlet had the Green Archer's about to die. Who said that?
Yeah.
Honestly, my first one, and I was in the arcade. I heard Altered Beast. The very beginning. Okay. You start the game up. Rise from your grave. What? Yeah. Well, at least in Altered Beast, you could see the person who's talking to you. He's right there. But Gauntlet, you're kind of like, there's some disembodied voice telling me I'm about to die. I am not having fun right now. But yes, goodbye, Mario. And also, goodbye eventually to the Xbox store.
Eventually.
On 360. On 360. I had to pause for, comedic effect there because I wanted people to be like, Xbox is stopping. No. Xbox is going to be closing down within the next year the 360 store. That means all the games cannot be purchased after that point. You won't be able to access them unless they're a part of your account. Now, as much as that might sting, the thing that's the bigger news about this, especially for those of us who are avid pro game preservation, there's an analysis done. More than 220 games on the 360 store are going to disappear when that store shuts down. There is no physical copy. There is no way to retrieve the data once that store closes. So, if you have a 360 or you have access to the 360 store and you are an avid fan of game preservation like we are, strongly consider getting those games.
Microsoft has not caught as much flack as Sony because they've made a big push to make those backward compatible.
Right. You can still access 360 games for relative.
A large amount of 360 games are still going to be just fine going forward. Those 200 games, I took a look at the list a few days ago, and honestly, some of those are, available on other consoles. I realize they want to preserve every single version of the game, and I get that.
Because some versions are different, technically,
yeah. And some of them, I would think expansions and things like that. So to call them 200 games is kind of a stretch, in my opinion. But, losing 200 games is still sucks, and like I've said before, the ultimate form of game preservation is going to be piracy. So
I mean, you don't want to preserve the Ancients of Uga.
No,
I don't even remember that game.
But speaking of losing things, BioWare is laying off 50 employees in a shift to become more agile, quote unquote.
BioWare has not been making smart plays for the past several years. I don't know what's going on there.
Their games lately have not been very good.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm talking about. Like Anthem had promise.
Anthem,
but it tanked.
Yep.
The new Dragon Age.
Not out yet.
Not out yet, but it's already getting like bad reviews because everyone says it's just another Assassin's Creed game, which means collectathon in a Dragon Age game. So far different from the RPG of Dragon Age Origins. So far different. It doesn't make sense.
I find it really weird that they're saying that they're going to lay off 50 people to become more quote unquote agile. That just means that you're laying off 50 people. You're going to make the people who stay there are going to have to work harder. And, you know, they say that they're cleaning up bureaucracy, among other things like that. I don't know if that's the ultimate result of all this. Obviously, I don't have view into their inner workings, but
I mean, I guess that's the question. The 50 employees that are being removed, are they executives? Because you probably could do with less of those right now.
Yeah, I don't know. To be more agile, flexible, maybe more just having a bigger bottom line too. But good luck to those 50 employees finding new jobs out in the marketplace.
Absolutely. Whenever you hear stories about like, hey, studio's closing or this is happening, or just the sudden wave of fear that comes from people trying to find work in the industry is astounding. And yeah, absolutely. You unfortunate few, you unfortunate 50 few. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the only other thing, what else we got? I keep forgetting. I know we wrote them down. I forgot.
So, you know, the Xbox is going to be, you know, speaking of, you were bringing up Assassin's Creed.
Yep.
Ubisoft is going to be possibly having a play to distribute all the cloud services for Microsoft games in the UK. And in a play to try to salvage the Microsoft acquisition of Activision
with the CMA. Which is ridiculous, I still think. Because, like, they've been through every other hoop. They fought off the FTC. They fought off... I'm freeing the other one now all of a sudden because I've just not been thinking about it lately. But, like, they fought off all the big dogs. Now this little chihuahua comes nipping at their heels. They got to deal with that. That's so stupid.
Well, they're more concerned about the cloud gaming service end of things, so we'll see if this ultimately alleviates their concerns. And I think it's supposed to be, like, indefinite, too. Like, into the future. Indefinite. So.
Yeah, that's what I thought I'd heard, too, is it? Or no. 15 years.
Or is it?
It's 15 years. I remember hearing that.
But the games that they get the rights to, I think, are indefinite. I think that's what it was. So
I just remember hearing about for 15 years because people were like, "Well, that's a much bigger deal than the 10-year Sony deal." So,
another deal that's causing things to be delayed. Baldur's Gate 3 for Xbox is going to come out this year, but it's going to be delayed. Either the team at Lyrian or Microsoft, you take your pick, wanted to have feature parity between the Xbox Series X and S, meaning split-screen co-op for the Series S version.
Okay.
That's not going to be coming now.
Uh-huh.
And how do I put it? Like, people have blamed Microsoft because they've said they wanted feature parity, but then people have blamed Lyrian for just not being able to produce it. The thing is that I don't think Microsoft, and they've said this, and I kind of believe them when they say this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm agreeing with a multi-billion-dollar company. Talking about feature parity with the Series S version, there hasn't been feature parity from the beginning. Number one, games that have ray tracing on the Series X, there's very few of them that also have ray tracing on the Series S, for instance. There's also a ton of games that don't have performance modes on the Series S, but do on the Series X. So the idea that Microsoft was stopping Lyrian from making this game because they required both of them to have split-screen co-op seems sort of far-fetched in my opinion. At any rate, it's still coming.
Just give it time.
Possibly the game of the year will still hit Xbox before the year is through. I'm looking forward to playing it myself.
I am too, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, I can't make up my mind if I'm going to buy it on PC or if I'm going to get it for the PS5. So, who knows? Speaking of PC, there's been some PC announcements from Gamescom 2 that I think that affect all gamers in one case, but
there's a lot of stuff from Gamescom, but a lot of it, let's be honest, a lot of what happened at Gamescom is stuff we already knew about, games we already knew were coming out.
Yeah.
But a lot of them were also, there were actual playable demos.
Here's the thing, before I get into the PC announcements, they canceled E3 because no one was showing up to that.
Mm-hmm.
But now Gamescom is okay? Why is the US-based one not getting shut down while this one over here in Germany is still going strong and bigger? I don't know if it's bigger than ever, but definitely bigger than you would expect.
Because E3 was not handled well, was not managed well.
Maybe, but
yeah, no, I think they do a much better job of handling it over there in Germany. But
okay.
Yeah. So real quick side note, I got to see somebody play Sonic Superstars. Yeah. I got to see actual level gameplay, and that game looks amazing. Like, I think Sonic Superstars and Mario Wonder are going to be some top-rated 2D platformer games that people need to get their hands on.
So I've said this before. I prefer the Mario 2D games to the 3D games. 100 with times out of 100. I don't touch the Mario 3D games.
Mm-hmm.
I might get Mario Wonder. I might actually get it.
I would really like Mario Wonder. Yeah.
I might actually get it.
I saw... I'm going to derail this real quick. I saw a video. The YouTube creator's name is Pringus McDingus. Okay, it's a little cartoon, and it's basically Peach is like walking through the Super Mario world, and she stumbles upon the elephant apple, and she goes to reach for it. Because the whole Bowsette meme before. Well, now it's so. People are like, oh, it's going to be an elephant peach. It's going to be an elephant peach. And just before she touches the apple, Daisy grabs her wrist, flings her up into the air, and whips out a flamethrower and just starts roasting the apple. It's the funniest little cartoon. It's like a 30-second something cartoon. It's worth checking out. So, anyhow.
Okay.
Back on track.
Back to the announcements.
PC stuff.
There is some PC stuff, one of which only affects PC.
Mm-hmm.
And then an announcement that could potentially affect console gaming going back. I guess if you still want to do this with the PS4 and Xbox One, could still happen. So,
by the way, we again, I have to aside. Do apologize if you hear a lawnmower in the background. It is still summer-ish time, so someone is out there taking care of their lawn. Cool. Anyway,
well, before the AMD announcement on Friday, then NVIDIA came out with an announcement of DLS 3.5. DLS 3.5 deals only with the ray tracing technology of their video cards.
Okay.
And it's supposed to be an enhancement and replace the denoiser. So, long story short, without getting too technical, ray tracing sounds exactly like what it is. It sends out rays. Those rays bounce off of things, and they get denoised because you can't possibly send out enough rays. These graphics cards are not powerful enough. You can't possibly send out enough rays to fill the whole scene properly. So
right. Noise in a graphical term is like you splash the color everywhere. It can get ugly.
So there's a denoise pass that kind of interprets what the rays are doing, and then ultimately gets to your picture. So essentially, they're replacing your traditional denoiser with their DLSS 3.5 technology, which uses their machine learning, AI and all that kind of stuff. That's all the buzzwords right now.
I was going to be surprised because I thought for a second they were going to go, okay, so here's how ray tracing works. This thing fires rays, and they trace things. And that was all you were going to explain it as. So I was waiting for that.
No, if I was going to make a joke, I would say, well, you see, the graphics card fires rays, and then they complain that someone shot them out. Because rays they typically don't like being shot out of things. I mean, I feel sorry for them, but you know what, Ray, it's okay.
Yeah, you hear that, Ray? Take that, Ray.
No, okay. So getting back on track. So they replaced the denoising filter with their own intelligent one, and it's supposed to better represent what
it's supposed to do the job better.
Yes, essentially. So the interesting thing about this is it works on all their graphics cards since the 2000 series. So the 2000 series up through the 4000 series all can use this.
Okay, so it's a program update, not a hardware.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay.
Because the AI technology has been in their graphics cards since the 2000 series. Here's the interesting thing. I don't know why NVIDIA has gone with a numbering scheme for these technologies, because now we're in a situation where it sounds stupid, okay? DLSS 1 was replaced by DLSS 2, and that's usable on all the cards. Yeah. DLSS 3 comes out, is only usable on the 4000 series models. So you've already been conditioned to say, well, DLSS 2 is for, these graphics cards, but, or all graphics cards, but DLSS 3 is only on the latest ones. Gotcha. And now you have DLSS 3.5, which is usable on all of them again. So as a owner of like a 2 or 3000 series graphics card, you're like, wait a minute, I can use 2 and 3.5? Why can't I use 3? This doesn't make any sense. So for the layman, I think it's going to be confusing.
I just think it's weird for them to go gone from 3 to 3.5. Like, okay, next is 3.672. Can we like stick with the solid numbers, folks?
I just think that they should call it what it really is. They should just call it, DLSS 2 should have been called image reconstruction. DLSS 3 should be called frame interpolation. Mm-hmm. And then DLSS 3.5 should have been called ray tracing reconstruction. Boom. That's what they do. That's what they should be named. That's what I think.
But we can't do that because we have to be intelligent and special and show off how different we are from the rest of the world. So we have to give everything terminology that doesn't make sense to anybody else, only us. It's the ultimate inside joke, but it's not a joke. Ha ha, we're just laughing at you. Well, was that bitter? I'm sorry. Was that a little too bitter?
Well, if this might make you feel a little bit better, AMD announced two new graphics cards coming out in the next week and a half. The 7700 XT for $450 and the 7800 XT for $500. Honestly, the $450 card seems a little overpriced, in my opinion, in today's market. But at least in relation to the 7800 XT, for $500, it's going to do stuff that the previous flagship was able to do. And compared to NVIDIA's offerings, it's priced really, really well. I mean, they may have a real winner on their hands with this. So look forward to that. I think it's really going to be great. And while it may lose to the 4070 in some ray tracing scenarios, it takes it out and back behind the shed and beats it down when it comes to regular rasterization performance. So I think it's going to be a really great card. But the biggest announcement, AMD announced FSR 3, which is just like DLSS. They're going down this whole naming convention stupidness too, which is to compete with NVIDIA's DLSS 3. So they're doing in-frame interpolation on their graphics cards now. Except it's not only their graphics cards, it's everybody. Their technology, assuming that it works as they're saying, is supposed to work on practically all video cards. At least going back to what you got in 2016.
Right.
So if it does as it's advertised, it's an amazing thing. But here's the biggest problem with these frame interpolation technologies is that it introduces a lot of input lag. And NVIDIA's done pretty well with reducing input lag. AMD, not so much. So I'm really concerned that the FSR 3, while it may be cool, may not be very practical. Here's the kicker, though. If it works as well as they are suggesting, which I certainly hope so, it also works on consoles.
Ooh.
So
okay.
That's the most intriguing thing about it. And the second most intriguing thing about it is they're doing this all without any AI acceleration. They're not using all that stuff NVIDIA is to do what they're doing. They're just using their regular compute shaders on these video cards to do it. So I hope it's good. We shall see. But it's not AI driven, at least for all the other video cards. Maybe the 7000 series, that these new video cards by AMD, they actually do have AI acceleration built in. Maybe on those cards they have a better version than everybody else. But, we'll see.
Time will tell.
Yes.
Time always tells.
This is true. So I really sincerely hope they're right, and if they are, it's going to be great for everybody. Console and PC gamers alike.
Okay.
But that's all I got.
All right. Well, like I said, time will tell. And time is telling us that we're done today. So we're going to get out of here. Thank you all so much for listening. We do appreciate you. All the normal YouTube spiel, like, comment, subscribe, give us $1. So whatever, I don't know.
They can give us $1?
I don't know. If you can find a way to give us $1, give us $1. That'd be cool. We'd appreciate it. Other than that, have yourselves a fantastic week. Maybe 2 weeks, depending on how work goes. But have yourselves a fantastic time. Have an awesome time playing games. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Take care.
Later.